Hey, welcome back to another Just 5 Mins, the bonus weekend version. And I feel a little bit like a parrot actually, because it's going on about AI agent skills. Okay. I covered this not more than 2 or 3 episodes ago. But I've had a chance to actually really use it in reality. And before you ask, this isn't just for coding. If you're a graphic designer, a UI designer, this is really useful. If you're in sales and marketing, this is really useful. It doesn't matter what line of work, if you're doing something, maybe not digging a hole in the street or something, although you never know, that might help. But anyway, skills. This is the open standard that was developed by none other than Anthropic, the people who make Claude again. And they already came up with MCP, Model Context Protocol, which was, from an easier definition, it's like USB-C for AI environments, LLMs and everything. So it's a way to, call out to other systems using a standard approach, which is really good. And skills is a similar thing. It essentially, and one thing to remember, it's not this mysterious, weird application or coding that you have to learn. Skills are nothing more really than just a specific folder structure. So if you're working on a sales and marketing document, just imagine you've got a folder on your disk and you can add skills there to, so if you're interacting with whatever it is that you're doing some research or whatever it might be, these skills come into play from your chat. Okay, so whether you're using Claude or, all the other usual chatbots, I'm pretty sure all of them, all the main ones now are adopting or are adopting. They may be in the process of adopting skills. So these are agent skills, actually, to be precise. But ultimately, it comes down to you have a folder structure, especially in code. So you can imagine if you've got some code, you've got a top level directory where your code is. So whether it's front end HTML, JavaScript, CSS, or both with back-end code or whatever it might be. The idea is you've got a skill name, which is the folder, and you can call it what you want that. Okay, but inside that folder, the very first thing that you would have is a file called skill.md, and it's Markdown. If you don't know what Markdown is, it's just a text format, where you can do, like in Word or something, you do bold and headers and all that sort of stuff. Markdown is just a textual version of that, okay? It's been adopted because it sort of gives you some control of the flow and the format of your text, as it were. And LLMs love text, so this is a way of drawing that in. So you've got a skills MD, okay? Now, there's a lot of things that you can put in that skills MD, but before I get into that, you've the other thing that you can have in the skill folder. So skill MD is almost like the top level where the LLM will reference that and find out what to do for this skill. Okay, so below that you've got scripts. Now this is a collection of example scripts. So again, it doesn't have to be just about coding. That's what I want to get over. But in a coding world, you can have scripts like templates, like, you've got a certain way that you always add, I don't know, a bottom toolbar or something. I don't know, whatever those things are. Or there's a certain design system that you're using, i.e. the color schemes, the CSS, the imaging, the iconography, the fonts, all that sort of stuff. Okay, so you can be quite explicit. Excuse me, sorry. I'll try to edit that out. If I don't, then it's real. But anyway, the idea is you can build all of those sort of scripts. And like I said, they can be literally mini little snippets. And it could be that, again, in a document type of thing, you know, sales and marketing or something, maybe there's a standard set that you want, you know, of paragraphs that you always add or whatever it might be. Okay. References, you've got references to documentation. Always refer to this, you know, it might be, you know, your company policies or something. I'm just trying to think. In a coding world, you can say always reference this source because that's my go-to source when I'm looking at whatever code I'm looking at. Okay. And you've got assets as well. So again, other reference points, maybe imagery, images or things like that. And, you know, there's quite a few other things that you can do in there. You can have a license, you can have compatibility, there's metadata, there's allowed tools that you're allowed to use. Again, going back to the MCP thing. But ultimately, you can then start. So, you know, there are, and I will put some links below. Right. Sorry, a bit of a cough break there. Anyway, but the idea is there's lots of these examples, and in, well, one of my worlds, I suppose, is the .NET world. The .NET team, the people who actually build and write .NET itself, have actually released a set of .NET agent skills, which are really, really good. And they cover lots of different avenues for doing things in .NET. One of them is the .NET MAUI stuff. So I'm currently building a few cross-platform apps, mobile apps and desktop apps. And there's a really good .NET MAUI skill that's got, again, it's got lots of specific things that you would need to know and do for .NET MAUI. So the whole point of all of this is rather than just putting a prompt in and hope for the best, which let's face it, the LLMs are getting cleverer and cleverer, aren't they? I mean, Claude Opus 4.6 or, you know, GPT 5.4, and certainly in the coding front. But these skills give you, you know, they're a bit more specific to what you want to use. And the good thing is they are incrementally loaded as and when you need them. So this is an all-important thing, is that the context window where you burn all your tokens, basically. So, you know, you just notice that all your Claude or ChatGPT tokens are going through the roof and you've run out of credits. You know, these are incrementally loaded. So you can actually be, in most chatbots, by the way, you can, with the skills set up, you can actually be explicit and say, you know, I don't know if it's a slash, whatever the skill name is, and you can refer to the skill directly. But even without explicitly inferring it, it will pick those up by the language that you use in your chat. Okay, but the good thing is it's incrementally loaded as and when. It's like on demand as well. So it isn't, even if you've got, say, 50 skills in your folder, it's not going to load all of those 50 skills in memory, as it were, in the context window. And then you ask a very simple question and he says, you've just burnt through, you know, 1 million tokens, you know, pay us more money. It's not going to do that. But it's really incredibly powerful. And again, it's a bit like MCP when it first came out. I did the same. It's like, okay, seems like an interesting idea. And it was only a few weeks later that then the reality started to hit and people were actually getting on board and using it. Now, MCP is just everywhere. And it's the de facto way of connecting other systems to your chat, basically, your LLM. Okay, hence the USB-C analogy for LLMs. But the agent skills is another one of those crucial things because it's very subtle. It's like people are going, well, where's the software that I have to install? There is none. You're going to find, and already there are marketplaces in floating quotes that you can pull these in. And you know, it's typical human nature. People are going to start charging for these because there's real value in if you've got skills for a specific area. Now, at the moment, I haven't come across any that are actually paid, but you know, you can see if you've got some very specific skills, you could probably charge for them like you can with any skill in life. So, you know, at the moment, there is like most of the things in like VS Code or your chatbots where you can do this. There's like a plugin nature, you know, you can do /plugin, and then you can add a marketplace and install a skill. So the interesting thing, that is software, which I've just said you don't need software to do that. And the true answer is you really don't need to do that at all. You can literally just, all skills are a folder with some prescribed ways of defining, like skills.md, and there's certain structures that you put in, but it's formatting and configuration other than anything else. But these marketplaces, when you add them, all it's doing is just automating that creation of like a skill folder, the skill MD, and it's creating like that structure for you if you want to be lazy like I am. So, you know, it's a really interesting thing. But back to the skills MD briefly, you do give it a name, description. You can optionally give it a license. Like I said, there's terms in your license. But then you're giving it the context about that skill. Okay. And that can be all the information, and there's far too much to go over at the moment, the things that you can put in. But like I said, there's a lot of good examples that you can look at and follow the structure. So I'll put the links in the show notes as ever. But also what I was going to say, that there is one thing that's really cool, actually. You know, there's ways of, like, if you're encoding, saying when debugging, always do this, always do that. But there's actually in the skills MD definition, there's like gotchas, which is really powerful, because they are things like, you know, that when you're, I don't know, writing a document, creating some code or whatever, there's probably gotchas like it's going to create, you know, something that you know is not what you want, and you're going to have to go and fix it up later. So you can actually give this gotchas section, say, you know, never do this, always check that, you know, do, you know, all these things, which is really powerful. And like I said, these sort of been around for a while, because even last year, and everything's moving so quick, last year feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? But even last year and the year before, you know, we ended up with these instructions.md or specifications MD, and MD meaning markdown file rather. It's just a text file, like a formatted text file. That's ultimately what it is. But they've been around, and so there's always a way of like, oh, there's some instructions for this project. And you could give it context and things like that. Skills are taking that idea forward a lot further and a lot more granular, because it doesn't have to load all of those instructions up in one big go. Okay, and we're back to that big context tokens usage and costing you loads of money. So skills are, like I say, on demand, incrementally loaded and referenced. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff happening here. I've done the same thing. I've like, okay, you know, and like I say, I did an episode, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes ago. And it was really because it was just an exciting new thing. And, you know, I thought, it's just really, you know, just documentation, really. It's more than that. And I've now been using it for a few weeks. And yeah, it's something that, again, the marketplace, don't get confused thinking, you've got to go and, you know, pay for stuff. Well, maybe one day, I don't know what they're going to do. But you do have a situation where, like I said, that most of these things are free. And this marketplace concept, all it's doing is just saving you creating that structure yourself anyway. Okay, so you can copy and paste agent examples into your into your folder. And of course, it works on any platform because it's just a folder structure with ultimately text and examples in it. But it's not to be underestimated. I think there's a lot of power here. So that's what I've got in just 15 minutes, which is my YouTube channel, which I've got to do something about. It's been a long time since I've done anything on that as well. But anyway, I do want to show a lot more examples of these things. But that's what I've got for this time around, this bonus weekend, longer weekend edition. So wherever you are in the world, take care and have a good day, a good week. And I will catch you in the next one.